Super Bowl 50 is expected to draw 1 million visitors, if not more, to San Francisco, and all those people are likely to be on their cell phones. Well, tonight, wireless providers are racing to beef up service to prevent dropped calls and slow service. But Julie Watts tells us why some people are not at all happy about it.
I think the box will be right there.
Unless Ludwig Kincarini can convince the city to block Verizon's plan to install a mini cell tower right outside his living room window.
The antenna is on the pole 10 feet in front of my house.
Wireless carriers like Verizon are putting up thousands of these so-called distributed antenna systems in the Bay Area because they say demand for data has nearly doubled over the last year. The industry says they're safe. Ludwig's not convinced.
There are people who believe there could be effects, like cancer.
But he's not allowed to talk about that. The Federal Communications Act of 1996 says cities and states can't consider health concerns when regulating the placement of these devices, as long as wireless companies follow FCC radiation guidelines.
Hello.
Based on science from back in 1996, when we were all still talking on bricks.
Federal regulations are obsolete.
Joel Moskowitz at UC Berkeley's School of Public Health is one of 215 scientists from 40 countries who are calling on the UN and World Health Organization to develop stronger guidelines for electromagnetic radiation exposures.
Many researchers that have signed the international appeal would argue it's probably carcinogenic. My feeling is it's highly probable that it's carcinogenic.
But that doesn't matter to the feds. Due to that 20-year-old law, the only way residents can protest one of these RF-emitting devices, just feet from their bedroom window, is to ignore possible health concerns and focus on the way they look.
It's really based on aesthetics.
But the planning department's Omar Masri says by aesthetics, that doesn't mean the view from your window. The city can only deny a permit if it obstructs the public view of a historic landmark or park. That's thanks to yet another outdated law, this one passed by the state back when horse and buggies lined the streets, giving telegraph companies the right to put up telegraph lines.
How many times do the residents win and get one of these permits revoked?
The most recent example was a site at Central and Page Streets in the Haight-Ashbury area.
So is it safe to say once?
Once, yes.
That's out of 249 protests over the past 2 years.
Appeal number 15-112.
But when Ludwig lost his protest, he kept fighting, taking it to the San Francisco Appeals Board, where for $300, you have the right to fight cell tower installers in person.
I'm really here today to ask for your help.
Ludwig presented slides of how the proposed tower would obstruct views of Golden Gate Park.
This is from 1953.
And even brought up the forbidden subject of health, comparing safety assurances from the wireless industry to propaganda about cigarettes in the 50s.
More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Today we laugh at things like that.
But an attorney for the company installing Verizon cell sites was quick to remind commissioners they can't consider health concerns.
As you've heard many times now already, that is simply not a matter that you are allowed to take into account.
Just when Ludwig figured he'd wasted $300, a surprise twist. Coincidentally, with our cameras rolling,
Vice President Honda.
Aye.
the commissioners upheld an appeal for the second time ever, citing a technicality with the permit.
Okay, that motion carries on a vote of 4-1.
Verizon is now appealing that appeal. The FCC says it's considering re-examining exposure limits, and the World Health Organization says so far there's no evidence of adverse health effects from these wireless base stations. Julie Watts, KPIX 5.